AI are transforming careers. The dating culture is changing. There is climate change, and also a lot of things are happening with our younger generation.
So in one way, Gen Zs are very open to learning and they
Yeah.
get so much of information. And on the other hand, they're very confused because they don't know what to do with the information, right?
Someone straight out of college, they're very afraid of making a choice, or they're
Yeah.
afraid of making the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So the uncertainty, a lot of thinking and anxiousness goes through it.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest, like how one should navigate through that phase?
So it is not really important that at 20 you're thinking, oh my god, this decision I'm gonna live my whole life on it. No,
Yeah.
you're not.
How can someone know if they're following their passion, or if they're doing it out of pressure, like peer pressure?
Children are starting having even image issues. They're
Yeah.
not happy, they think they're not good enough, they're not happy with the way they look, the way they are interacting with others. They have lost confidence completely, right?
So my question is that how do you find love in a culture which treats people like
Commodity.
swiping options?
Social media is open and you think all the 100 people who are there are going to love you.
No.
They're going to use you. Whether
Yeah.
you're male or female doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
So hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Suryanshi Anand, your host, and today we are going to talk about something which is deeply relevant from my generation, Gen Zs. If we talk about today's world, it is moving faster than ever before. AI are transforming careers. The dating culture is changing. There is climate change, and also a lot of things are happening with our younger generation. They want to figure out things faster than ever before. So, to navigate these questions, we have been joined by someone whose insights are going to help us navigate life, and they have helped a lot of people in their self-help, awareness, healing. So, welcome, ma'am. How
Hi.
are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So before like going into the questions, the first thing I would like to know is the perspective, right? So as someone who has worked with a lot of people from different age groups and generation, so what is your perspective overall regarding the Gen Zs?
Okay. I think I'm a very wrong person to ask this question. I seem to be a little biased, but to be very frank, I think um, the rush that the world with which the world is moving is really getting into them. When I do workshops in which I also meet some people of your age, what we call Gen Z. I don't want to define you as Gen Zs because when we create this sense of belonging to just one category, then everyone wants to copy each other. By the mere definition and giving a name or terminology to a group of people, we separate them. And then we also somehow, with unknowingly, we impose that they look at each other and just copy paste each other. We kind of take away creativity from people when we do that, right? Like all Christians want to do a certain way of living, all Muslims, all Gen Zs, all 90s people. We want to relate and we belong, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is not a good thing. I try not to do it. But I think it's a very mix. I think they are kind of confused. Honestly, my perspective is that they're confused and it's not their fault. Their fault, there's too much information available, right? And there is no, and unfortunately, there is no patience to go back and check the source. So whatever resonates with them, they want to take.
Yeah.
And here comes a slight challenge for people who, whether they're Gen Z or whether my generation or even my elders, if a person wants to just take the things which resonate and the things that confirm and affirm, then I'm cutting my learning. So in one way, Gen Zs are very open to learning and they get so much of information. And on the other hand, they're very confused because they don't know what to do with the information, right? So I feel overall it's a little restless, a lot confused, but also amazingly open to new things. So this is my understanding or
Understand.
definition.
I feel like you're quite right about that. So I feel like this is going to lay the foundation of the questions that we are going to ask now. So my first question is that, as like I've mentioned in the intro as well, the Gen Zs, they are going through a lot. A lot of information is out there, and also, as I've mentioned, the political situation, economic situation, also the social media plays a very big role in providing information in their face.
Yeah.
Right. So my question is that, do you think Gen Z is genuinely facing a unique set of challenges compared to previous generation? Or like my thing is that I want to tell, in earlier generation, for example, the people during World War I or II, they have their own set of challenges.
Yeah, of course.
Right, they have their old traumas and people dying here and there. So do you feel like every generation has different set of challenges?
Yeah.
Or Gen Z is having something unique out of it, like something unique?
So, see, every generation, as you very clearly said, has had their own challenges. The challenges which I see Gen Zs perceive to be challenges are very self created. When World War broke down, no one had a choice, they had to do something.
Yeah.
But Gen Zs have a challenge with social media which they can switch off, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the problems of the Gen Z seems to be self created.
Okay.
And it again, I really feel it is not their fault. I feel their perspective and how they look at life and they think everything is kind of a challenge is being who made that perspective or that definition for them? We, the generation who raised them.
Yes.
Because we didn't allow them to really look at life the way life is. Because we suffered, right? We wanted to provide everything. And when we provided everything, we took away the resilience, right? So, and also they have options. They can, and because see, really, I don't know, it's a challenge, but it is the willingness to face life is kind of faded from the Gen Zs. And again, it is not their fault, it is our fault. We didn't allow them to have any hardship. They wanted this, okay. They didn't like this at school, okay. Because you should never say no to your child, because your child, you should understand the feelings of your child. We should, all the things we did which our parents didn't do for us, actually we went overboard with it, right? So yes, there are certain challenges, but a lot of their challenges are actually self-made. I don't want to be biased, and I am sure this is going to fire back really hard at me, but look at it. Social media, switch it off, right? You have friends who are into drugs, don't associate with them. We did the same thing, right? But the problem here is social media is trying to tell you it's okay to be all over the place, but honestly it's not okay. Before, because we had very little avenues and very little choices, we were more focused. The problem here is there are too many choices. Look at it. You go to a mall and there are 20 shops. By the end of the day, you really don't know what you want to buy.
Yeah, that's
because now
true.
you have too many choices.
Yeah.
But before, there was one shop, there was one TV channel, whatever. I'm not saying that was great, but the focus came. So now lack of focus, which seems to be one of the biggest issues of the Gen Z, or what I would call a challenge, or overflow of information, which actually hypnotizes you, is really a self-created challenge. It's not really a challenge if we look at challenge is where at 16 your God forbid your parents are not there and you have to go work and also feed your siblings and become their parent. Those were the challenges. But अब social media में बहुत information है, I'm so depressed. That is not a challenge.
That is something I agree with. So now we'll talk about anxiety and the future. So a lot of people, someone straight out of college, they're very afraid of making a choice, or they're afraid of making the wrong decision. So the uncertainty, a lot of thinking and anxiousness goes through it. So what would you suggest, like how one should navigate through that phase?
So I feel it is really important to take life as it comes, and there is no right and wrong choice. And I'm saying this, you're hearing this from a person who has changed at least 6 different industries. Okay, so I studied MBBS, left because because of circumstances. So, and then I studied psychology, worked for an intern for some time, didn't like it because it was criminal psychology, you know, and then I went into banking and finance. Okay. And then I worked there for a few years. I did extremely well. Okay. I was awarded for the first woman who did the kind of work I did. I don't want to take the name of that, but in my industry, I was awarded twice, right, in 5 years. Then I moved from that there to insurance, you know, to operations basically. So first I was hardcore finance, right, psychology, where I started working. Oh, I also started as a sales girl, by the way. Okay, in automobile industry, I was crazy about cars, and I thought, oh my god, this is the ultimate career. But I was just studying then, right? So it was. So I started sales. Then I went into hardcore finance, right? Then I went into insurance. Then I went to training and development. Okay. Then I go back to education overseas. Look at, but any one of them was failure? No, because whatever field I picked up, I excelled at it. So it is not really important that, you know, at 20 you're thinking, oh my god, this decision, I'm going to live my whole life on it. No, you're not. The same way today you fall in love and tomorrow out of love, today you will have a job and tomorrow you will have another job, right? So if you can relate the two things, and then, so what I suggest is, first of all, realize nothing is permanent. Your decision or your choices cannot be permanent. What is important is whatever you pick up, even if you do it 6 months or you do it 3 months, you do it 3 hours, you do it 10 years, you excel at it. When you come out of that choice, you should be a winner of that choice. You should be at the top of that game because you're coming out with that experience and that learning. Now, whichever field you go, you're going to use it. Nothing is wasted in life, right? So, if you try and understand there is no failure and there is no mistake, I just need to do the best I can, whatever it is possible, wherever I am, then there would be no anxiety and fear of future. Because genuinely, you can't fear future. Because future is something you don't even know if tomorrow you're going to be there or not. Why are you worried about 10 years from now?
True that. Yeah. Another question that I have is that how can someone know if they're following their passion or if they're doing it out of pressure, like peer pressure? Like if everyone is doing it, then I should do. You know, how to separate that? This is something I'm passionate about and this is something I'm doing out of peer pressure. Sometimes people tend to confuse that. And later on, like after years, they realize, oh, this is something I didn't want to do.
Yeah. So see, even if we like something to do, after some time we may get tired of it. Okay. So you said passion, peer pressure, and I would also want to add the third thing, that there would also be something which is your gift, right? So let's say talk about the peer pressure first. So anything which is out of compulse and anything which you're doing because you don't know anything else to do, or you feel you have no other choice, or others are doing, and when you do it for, let's say, 3 months and you realize you're actually getting tired, it is exhausting you, your heart and soul is not there, you can't focus, you know, every 5 minutes you want to get up, you know, from your laptop and do something else. So obviously this you're doing for the sake of doing. Passion is when you do something and then you want to do it over and over again because it gives you a sense of calm, a sense of achievement, adding value. You feel good about yourself. You don't have to show it to anyone, you don't have to get applaud for it, you don't want to be appreciated. You just write a piece of, you know, article, and for you it is precious. Or you, let's say, play music and it is precious, or someone is into video editing, whatever, you feel good about it, right? You are never tired of it. It's never a pressure that, oh god, I have to get up and do that. Okay. Now, but what is your path, or whether something will remain with you forever, is what is your gift. Now, gift is something which you're so good at that you cannot recognize that you're good at it. Right? Let's say for me, I think my gift would be teaching. And I'm not saying I'm a great teacher, but any concept you give me related to my topic, I can explain it in a way that a 7-year-old can understand. So then I consider myself a good teacher because I can make anyone understand it, right? But did I know it? No, I never knew I'm a good teacher till my students told me that no one explains the way you now gave me clarity. I've read, let's say, 10 books and I didn't understand this topic, right? So the gift, now we want to go after the gift, but the gift has become so mundane that we don't even recognize we are good at that. So we need to choose something which is between the gift and the passion, or if we are really lucky, we can actually make money from our gift and the passion, then you're sorted for life.
Yeah, that is true. I feel like talking to me. Okay, so this was about anxiety and about the future. So the next thing that I wanted to discuss, that is coming a lot, and we hear this in social media a lot. A lot of fear has been there in the minds of younger generation. That is AI.
Okay.
AI career and the future of it. So as you may see in the news, AI is replacing jobs, right?
Yeah.
People, massive layouts are being done. So how do you suggest, people are scared that AI will replace them.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest? Like, what mindset should we have, or is there something that AI has that the normal human being, they can retain it and they can have it in their jobs?
See, I think yes, AI is coming in a big way, and even the founder of AI himself, I heard his interview where he
Smart.
was saying, yes, he was saying that it is so hard. I have to wake up every morning to realize that actually I'm taking away so many jobs. Look at, his conscience is now waking up.
Yeah.
But what I feel is that AI is also made by humans. It is being used by humans. Okay, if we allow AI to take over, it will take over. Either my life, your life, or everyone's life, right? Now, yes, certain things AI can do, but we need to also realize the data that AI is collecting and giving it back to us, that was also provided by us. Right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of intelligence, it cannot overpower us if we want to use our intelligence. There are certain things AI cannot really take over. Let's say your creative essence, right? It cannot take over you do something with hands. It cannot take over something which is related to your health. So if you understand your mind and your body, and you understand how you can use your gift, and add your creative essence to your gift, and come in a way that you want to serve humanity. Because see, everything can be a business and a profession, but the same thing can also be adding value and serving people.
Yeah.
Let's say if I am doing this, I keep creating master classes of my courses, then I'm doing business, right? But when I decide that I want to 101, give enough time, give 2 hours, and really understand and really deal with someone's emotions and feelings, then the AI cannot replace me. Because the AI will give you data, but will never understand what you're going through. Right? The human connection. So basically, you can focus on your creative side, adding value and being of service, and what is your human value you can add. Once you can do that, how can you create human connections? A sense of community. With whatever you do, you can use AI to do it, but then AI cannot take over you. Right?
So basically, just work with the AI and just use your creative side.
Yeah, and also there's so much others, like you can use nature, you can inculcate nature into your business, you can provide certain services which are nature based. So then what can AI do? Can do nothing. Yeah.
That's true. This question has been asked from my friend. So I did told her that I'm going to do a podcast. So basically she asked me that if someone loses their career tomorrow, so how can they build their identity then?
How is your career even related to your identity? I mean, this is a very sad reality.
That
I
is a
think,
sad reality,
where
yeah.
Gen Z is, maybe they are under so much pressure to perform. So, when you were talking in the earlier question about pressure and future, the pressure is not about future, the pressure is of performance. And the biggest lie we tell ourselves is the performance lie. Okay? Because I keep telling myself, and I want to prove to the world, I'm only worthy if I can perform well. I can be the good girl, the good podcast host, the good, videographer, whatever, But actually, your identity has nothing to do with what you're doing. Your identity in the minds of other people, if you're looking for appreciation and applause from others and you want to be recognized in the society, comes from how much value you add to people. It has nothing to do with your profession. If today I am a life coach, but why am I a life coach? Because from the age 14, I was helping my friends, to overcome their breakups, to, do maths better, teach them physics. I was constantly
Adding value.
trying to add value. And as a 14, 13 year, 16-year-old, I had nothing in my mind that this is going to be my career. I wanted to be a doctor or a surgeon, basically, right? That's why I did 2 years of MBBS.
Yeah.
But my identity, tomorrow, if you take Sahar, the coach, out of me, it's not going to bother me. Because what is inside of me is going to make my identity, not what I'm doing with it.
Yeah.
If my inside is strong, I can make 100 different identities with it. I can be the Sahar, the artist. I can be Sahar, the writer, the author, the podcast host, the speaker, the whatever.
Yeah.
The inside should be strong. And tomorrow you want to take away the title of author from me, it's okay. I have 10 other things to do. You get my point?
Yeah. So, ma'am, the next section, it is related to student pressure and the exam culture. As you may know, the NEET exam, right? UPSC and JEE, all of these exams, these are becoming harder and harder every single year. And kids who are preparing for years and years, one exam go bad and they're like, my entire self-worth, it does not matter. And sometimes they do not even get into their dream college, so they do tie their self-worth to that. Like, if I'm not getting into that college, if I'm not getting that certain kind of marks, they go into that spiral, that anxiousness, the depression. So my question is that, like, what would you say to someone whose dream college couldn't work out, they couldn't get a perfect score? These are the things like that actually happen. I have seen a lot of my juniors, they tie their self-worth to, like, I didn't go to this college, I couldn't get this much marks, so they do tend to do those things. So what would be your suggestion or your perspective on this matter?
See, actually, I do understand that. Again, I don't think it is the child's fault that we have tied our worth and our value to institutions, places, and things outside of us. Now, education is important. I have been studying forever. I am still studying. I am a student of life. But your worth, your faith, your ability to conquer the world, your ability to do your best has really very little to do with education and a lot to do with how much you believe in yourself. I see there is a person who is a hotelier. I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but he has a chain of hotels across, North America and also Europe.
Okay.
I think he has about maybe 100 hotels or something.
Okay.
He's not even second class pass out.
Oh.
He is from Amritsar and he used to have those, like, chaat and whatever, tikki, selling those.
Yeah.
And then he somehow managed to reach America. And then he made whatever he made, right? Now, I'm not saying we should go and do that.
Yeah.
But if we have the basic education and if we know how to use it and if we have that grit that I know myself and I want to do something, and you place all of your bets not on a law college which tomorrow can be collapsing, okay?
Yeah.
Or we have so many colleges where actually drugs are selling, so people are going to the best colleges, coming out and going straight into rehab centers.
Yeah.
Don't want to name those colleges, but a lot of them in North India. So if we are trying to tell that because this victim attitude and because I lost this, oh, my life is gone, we need to have also some trust in and faith in the universe. If this path didn't happen, probably it wasn't the best for you. There can be, other paths or other ways for you to do things.
Yeah.
So if this didn't happen, maybe there is a better path. Or maybe something more is there. But that will come if you have confidence within yourself, right?
Yeah. So there's also, students are experiencing extreme anxiety right before exams. They have prepared all year and they have the experience, they have the knowledge, but still the extreme anxiousness right before the exams. So parents, they do not know how to handle their kids, right? So according, though that anxious moment, how can we deal with it?
So again, anxiety before exam is also the performance pressure, right? Because parents have made the child believe unless you know do. So every parent thinks their child should become first, but
Yeah.
in a class of 40, only one person will become first. No,
Yeah.
everyone can't be first.
Yeah.
So we need to understand and accept life for what it is, and actually, you know, mm, teach our children. See, that is the problem. We are not teaching our children to deal with life. We are not teaching them to get a no for an answer. We are not teaching them how to deal with failure.
Yeah.
We are not teaching them that it's okay if today your exam is not happening. Let's say you're not getting 80 out of 100 or 90 out of 100. There's always another chance. We have given, and this is really not children's fault, we have given them so much of pressure, and because we keep thinking we have provided everything for them, now they need to perform. It doesn't work like that. And not every child is meant for everything. I may not be great at economics, but I have excelled at, let's say, sociology, so I should follow that path. Now if I'm not good at this and you still want me to go and become an economist, it's not going to happen, right? So we need to understand in certain things the child has a strength. We as parents should help the child to cash on the strength of my child, and then also to wherever the child has weakness, to help the child overcome that. So what we do is we want to bash them here, okay, and whatever energy they have there to perform there, that also we are taking away. And this need to perform and thinking the whole life will collapse if one exam goes bad. This is not their fault, this is parents' fault, and parents don't need to do much. They just need to sit down, close their eyes, and remember even they were at that age. What did they do? And why is it so much of expectation from the child today? Because what I'm realizing, as a result of, let's say, not doing well in one exam, or not getting an institute, children are starting having even image issues. They're not happy, they think they're not good enough, they're not happy with the way they look, the way they are interacting with others. They have lost confidence completely, right? So that a stress of exam is branching out into every social aspect of a child, and the parents should just sit back and see there wasn't so much pressure. If we have made it till now and we made it so well that we could provide so much, even our child will do same IQ, in fact better IQ, right? So I think too much of expectation of the parents is a disease now.
I completely agree to that.
Now parents will come after me.
No, because like, as you may know, like a lot of suicides have happened recently because of the NEET cancellation, and this situation is so serious that kids.
No, but look at what kind of kids we are bringing up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That
I
they
agree.
cannot take a failure which is not even their fault.
Exactly, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It is really sad reality, and it's not the child's fault.
And I feel like parents should get some, training, counseling and training, like
I agree.
how to treat your child.
Yeah.
Because all of that pressure and stress and that anxiety, like if your mother is anxious, all of that is going to the child.
Yeah.
So that, creates a lot of issues, I believe.
I agree.
So the next section is about dating, dating apps, love and modern relationship. So my question is that how do you find love in a culture which treats people like,
Commodity.
swiping options?
Yeah, so you don't find love actually.
Like this?
Yeah, you really don't find love.
Yeah.
You find confusion.
Yeah.
You find the need for validation and attention, and confuse that with something you think which is love, right? Because unfortunately this generation, and also probably the generation between me and the Gen Z, has been very, very attention seeking.
Yeah.
Right? Because the pressure of performance, and they constantly are mixing attention or confusing attention or validation, or the need to come out as cool or they belong, right?
Yeah.
Because see what happened unfortunately with a lot of Gen Zs, that parents got super busy. The father wanted to make a lot of money to provide, and the mother also became a feminist and also wanted to either provide or thought that sitting at home and taking care of my child is not a very feminine thing. I must go earn outside, and I need to be very strong woman. So the children were really neglected emotionally. They really didn't have a support system to go to. I don't know about other countries, but here most children were raised by actually the the helps at home, right? So now that void, the emotional void, how much of money you provide, you give the best gifts, can it really replace your attention and your love and your sense of connection? It cannot. It will never, right? So but they learned that because what their parents did, they constantly give gifts and they give good things and they give whatever the child wanted, because they had to overcome their own guilt also, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so
Yeah.
I'm going to
Gift.
provide more,
Yeah.
and I'm going to overcompensate the child. So but that need for connection and attention, and then social media comes in, right?
Yeah.
Now they're getting false attention, which is not even real. And then from that false attention, some really weird person comes out and gives them even more attention, and they fall into that trap. And then when you're saying it's not just swiping right and left, but it is also this false sense of independence and this false sense of thinking I have too many choices just because social media is open and you think all the 100 people who are there are going to love you.
No.
They're going to use you. Whether you're male or female doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If someone wants to abuse you mentally and emotionally, it doesn't matter you're a man or a woman, or even at times sexually, financially, right? So many frauds are happening. So you don't find love. You are now getting even further more confused and disconnected from yourself, because every person you thought this one is going to choose me and love me decided to let you go.
Yeah.
So for that you need to come back and focus and really decide what is it that you're looking for. Is it temporary attention, dopamine rush, or is it you're looking for a deep connection? Now everyone cannot give you a deep connection. You have to be very selective.
Yeah. And I also feel like the dating scenario, it has become more difficult because now you have a lot of options, and the expectations, they are becoming a bit unrealistic as well.
Yes.
So like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, see, I really don't know too many Gen Zs who talk to me about their dating issues. But yes, the expectation of the self, see, it is not the expectation from your partner is unrealistic. The people, really have started to believe that, just because they get some, like, let's say, fake attention on social media, that there's something very unique about them. Everyone is unique.
Yeah.
And everyone will get attention if you try to do the kind of things, which is becoming random on social media. But the truth is, eventually, is it making you more empty, or is it really making you full and happy with yourself? The answer is very clear, right? If you have 100 friends, or let's say you have 10,000 followers, but when you're upset, there's not one person you can call and talk.
Yeah.
You know what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know what to say with the dating part. I think they're just not very selective.
Yeah.
And they don't value themselves. I think one of the biggest challenges of Gen Zs is that they have lost the sense of self value. They don't value themselves. Their entire not value system, but in the entire self worth is depending on either what they do, or how they look, or what they're wearing, right? And how many people around them are there. We have to make them sit for 10 days by themselves, we will have
Gonna
more
go
suicides
crazy.
happening, right? Yeah, so they have lost a sense of self value and self respect, I would say.
Yeah. So there was this another question. So is modern dating, is it creating any connection or just endless comparisons to you?
Modern dating is just taking you away from you.
Yeah.
It is just creating disconnection with yourself, with the reality of dating, with the reality of human connection and relationships. Because a real connection in a relationship is a kind of relationship which has to pass the test of time, pass the test of struggles, challenges, fights, arguments, disagreements, hard communication, confrontations. But the modern dating is saying, oh, I don't like you, there are 10 more in the line, pass, right? So you never are having a chance neither to know yourself, nor to actually really have a full cycle of a relationship. So you would never experience a relationship. And as human beings, the most important thing is the sense of belongingness and connection. That's where we feel safe. So if you're never safe with yourself and within the relationship, you're just getting more and more disconnected from life.
Yeah.
And I would say perhaps even more and more frustrated.
Yeah.
Because what you're seeking is just running away from you.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a question that I also want to ask. So, what are some signs of anxiety that it has become someone's identity?
So when you're in constant rush, your mind is always all over the place and you're constantly overthinking, procrastinating, delaying every decision. Uh, like I have a client, she initially couldn't choose what to wear in the morning. It will take for her 40 minutes to choose what to wear.
Okay, yeah.
When you have reached that level, now uh, you're not living with anxiety. Anxiety is living inside of you, right? So then you want to really declutter your mind. You want to take the notes of your to-do list. You want to decide what you want to wear a day before, if that gives you an anxiousness. Then you also want to avoid places where you have to overperform your abilities. Where there is a certain group of people who are constantly checking you out, will go talk behind your back, all of that. So you want to avoid all of that. And then you want to start doing a small little task. And when anxiety hits, this is something you really can't do much about. If you keep thinking about it or if you feel it, you immediately want to step out into the nature and then speak to someone to whom you cannot speak about anxiety.
Yeah.
Because when you speak about anxiety, you will add to it. But someone, let's say work related, so you taking away your mind from the situation. But if the constant rush, constant multitasking, never ending to do list, and your decisions are like now getting really delayed and you're procrastinating, you really don't know from where to start your day and how to end it, then you're definitely in a state of anxiety.
So, ma'am, what would you suggest? Like, how to deal it, like step by step? What should be the first step? Dealing with it throughout the day. If you're having anxiety, one brain's, it just stops completely.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do, what to think. So, what would be your suggestion if I'm having anxiety? Let's say. So, what should be the first step? What should I think about? Like how
The first
to get
step
out of
is to
it?
accept that at this moment I am under anxiety attack.
Yeah.
And right now I am kind of dysfunctional. I need to do something about this. Okay. And then you want to, as you're doing this, you want to slowly, consciously slow your breathing. You want to slow your breath. Let's say, I'm talking like this, and then I am like, okay, this is anxiety, it's hitting me. I don't know what to do, it is hard. And slowly, consciously, now I'm holding my breath as I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
And slowly I'm settling down. Okay. So, and then as I said, you also want to immediately speak to someone to whom you cannot share about your anxiety.
Yeah.
It can be a work thing or a friend who doesn't know yet you get an anxiety attack, or you have to order something, you pick up the phone, talk to the salesperson, whatever. You really want to distract yourself, because what is anxiety is a endless loop of thoughts, right? And then it reaches at a level that your brain cannot anymore, diagnose it or decode it. Now there is too much of a rush and you don't know what to do with that. So you need to slow it down, right? And then if you can, stepping out. Like let's say we are in this room, immediately step out into fresh air or a park or wherever, place of nature.
Yeah.
I won't suggest doing meditation because nahi hoga. That is not. So and then once you have calmed down, now you want to understand what situations brings this panic attack to you.
Yeah.
Okay? Is it something you have lied about? Is it something you have to perform? Is it too many tasks which are pending? Is it deadline is hitting you? So now whichever that task is, you want to get it and then start a slowly one step at a time working on it. Work on it, yeah.
Okay, speaking about anxiety, another thing that is like on not a trend, a lot of people might relate to it, but health related anxiety. If we
Like
talk
what?
about health related anxiety.
Okay, I don't know what that is. Okay.
I'll explain it to you. So basically, like surroundings are surroundings. A lot of pollution is there.
Yeah.
Not here, but
But
in
wherever, yeah.
North India generally. So there's this issue of pollution. Then there's issue, not clean water, not clean, resources. So yeah, we do some certain people do get these things in
So are you
mind.
talking about OCD or is it anxiety?
No, anxiety. Like,
Anxiety,
for
okay.
example, like if the food that I'm eating outside, is it good? Or if I'm heading outside, if it is going to affect me health wise.
Oh my God.
So
This is the first time I'm hearing something like
yeah,
this.
these things, like I've read
So-
certain blogs about it, that people tend to
Yeah.
overthink. Like, they should not, but they tend to overthink whether if I'm going to eat this, or if I stay outside for a longer period of time, it is going to affect my health. Or a lot of things are coming out, health related, cancer, diabetes, and all such stuff. So it tends to it gets into your brain. What if someday this thing happens? So certain people, they tend to think about that. So how would you suggest one should go through it, like
First
to
of all,
solve this
limit your
issue?
inputs about diseases. Why do you need to read about disease and what is happening with diseases and all of that?
Yeah.
When it comes to resources and eating somewhere which you think it is not clean, then be very selective. Obviously, don't need if that is. But from the way you're talking to me and as a therapist, I feel this is actually a psychological issue. Then the person needs a therapist. Really needs a psychologist or a therapist to discuss these issues, because this kind of overthinking is not really normal. With all due respect to whoever is going through it, it is like something which is not normal. We as human beings are very resilient.
Yeah.
We have a body of 300 trillion cells, which every day, without you knowing, billions of cells are dying and they are being replaced on its own. Your almost every organ is regenerating itself every single day. Some organs are replacing and regenerating in few hours. The body is super intelligent. It knows what to do with something which is coming from outside. It has an immunity system in place.
Yeah.
So now, if you don't trust the body, you don't trust the creator who made the body, you don't want to take care of your resources. Let's say water is not clean, boil it.
Yeah.
Don't drink outside. I mean, these are so simple things. But if a person is not even about to think about these things with this much clarity, right, and doesn't have faith in the body as a system, and wants to constantly read about disease and think it's going to happen to me, it is a psychological issue. This is not anxiety. This is a kind of a mild psychosis maybe, that needs to be dealt in a very professional way. They need professional help.
So one question is that, what are the biggest misconceptions about healing?
They think it's magic wand.
Okay.
That you go to a healer and she does voodoo and then you get okay. The biggest another misconception is that healing is supposed to be very hunky-dory, very easy. It will just happen, it is supposed to be magical. But the true transformation, if you're talking about healing that leads to transformation and you leading a different reality as a result of it, then it's a lot of self-work. It is dark work, it is ugly, it can make you feel lonely, isolated, mentally cracked. You may feel retarded because why did I take those many decisions, or why did I lie to myself? So basically healing is a microscopic look at yourself at every cellular level, I would say, and remove all the things that you have created which is against your overall well-being. And there is nothing very glorified about it. It feels magical because people think, oh, I have all the solutions. Yes, you have the solutions, but you need to apply it. And when you start applying them, then the reality hits really hard. So the misconception is it's going to be easy, someone else will do it for me. After that, once the issue is resolved, I'm going to be living in heaven happily ever after. Those are all misconceptions.
Okay, so now we'll be ending the session. This will be the last session. It is regarding hope. So my question is that, what gives you hope for this generation?
I think their openness to try new things, and for them to have the courage to do things that our generation would found them stupid or would not even try. So it shows their willingness, and also kind of they have this uncanny courage to want to do new things. The other thing is that they have a lot of specific branches of things to follow. You know, if it is AI, it has 600 branches. If it is psychology, now it has 500 ways of doing psycho. You know, so they have very specific things if they want to remain focused. And then I would say. I think their ability to look at things without a biased lens to some extent,
Yeah.
even though when you speak to them at some point or places, they're very rigid.
Yeah.
But the places they are open and non-biased is nice because our generation probably was very biased with morality. And yeah, I think that's the hope that I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whoever is watching the podcast, what would you tell them? Whoever is feeling overwhelmed right now, or just going through a lot of stuff, what would you tell them right now?
I really don't understand what a lot of stuff Gen Z can go through. I'm sorry. Okay, but let's say they're going through a lot of stuff, if at all any.
Yeah.
So I wanted to tell them, sit down and note down, really, the stuff you're going, let's say 10 things are bothering you, list them down, and in front of each one of them, write which one you can change and which one you cannot. The ones you can change. Or you can stop, let's say watching too many reels a day and getting derailed, right? And the ones you have no control, let's say 10 years from now, what will happen to my career?
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it. Just remove it from your mind and stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Prioritize the things you can actually manage and do something about it. The things which are out of your control, there's no point thinking about it. When the time comes, we will see.
I feel like this advice is not for the younger generation, but as
For
a whole,
everyone,
for
yes.
everyone
Yeah.
who's going through stuff. So yes, so that was it. I had a very good session with you. I
Thank
feel
you.
like I got a lot of insight regarding stuff and also the political culture, everything. So yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So